Hello everyone, welcome back. It's really good to see you again, and for today's episode I'm going to be trying something a little bit different. So as you may know, about 2 weeks ago I did a live video at the Balmoral Hotel to celebrate reaching 100,000 subscribers. That was more like a personal chat. In that I did see quite a few questions, and also over the last few months of doing YouTube I have seen a lot of things that have been asked again and again. So I thought that this was the time to address some of the questions, some of the curiosities about me, and talk about them in this video. There are a few things that I would like to address in this video. The first one is my childhood. I've seen a lot of comments and questions asking about that. There are a few misconceptions about it. Even though I have spoken about it in the past, I'm going to talk about it in more detail. The second thing that I want to talk about is my coming out story. I am gay, and even though I've spoken about that before, we haven't really delved into detail. So let's do that together now. And the final thing that I would like to discuss is trolls and some of the things that I've read about myself that I think I should address. So let's do this, and I hope you enjoy the video. So the first thing that I would like to talk about is my childhood and my background, because this is something that's coming up again and again. I'm seeing it on comments, I'm seeing it online, in Instagram, in quite a few places, and people trying to guess where I'm from or make accusations of me trying to pretend that I'm something that I'm not. So even though I've spoken about this quite a lot before, I think it's time for me to say it once again, so that if anybody is searching for these answers, they will be all here in one video for you to view, and you will see for yourselves what the truth is. So I grew up in a very working class area outside of Birmingham. I'm not going to tell you exactly where or show you a picture of my parents' house because they still live there, so that probably wouldn't be very nice for them. But it was basically a terraced 3-bedroom house. I had a brother and a sister. My sister is older, my brother is younger, so we all lived in that house. It was small, tiny, cramped, but there was lots of love, lots of fun, usual arguing like all brothers and sisters have, but on the whole a very happy childhood where my parents did absolutely the best that they could. We went on lots of holidays, we had nice clothes, we always looked well dressed. So it was a happy childhood in that sense. So no, I didn't grow up in a castle or a stately home. I grew up in a little terraced house just outside of Birmingham. I've been open and honest about that before, but it's important for me to do that again because otherwise people think that I'm trying to be something that I'm not. So hopefully that will put this to rest. Apart from that, there isn't really a lot that I can say about my childhood because I don't really remember too much. The only thing that I do remember is feeling that I was a little bit different from the other boys in my class. So at the time I didn't know that I was gay, but I definitely felt different from other boys, and I think that gave us a little bit of a separation, and I kind of didn't have that many friends. I had more girlfriends, and so I definitely felt different. But really my school was fine. I didn't really enjoy primary school that much, but it wasn't hellish or terrible, it was just okay. When I got to secondary school, I felt like it was a chance for me to start again and kind of reinvent myself, because I was the only person from my primary school who was going to this secondary school. So I didn't know anybody there on the first day. It was a real chance for me to begin again and start again, which I did. Something just clicked in me and I decided that I want to have more friends, I want to have more fun, so I'm going to do that, and that is what I did. For the first few years of my early teens, I knew I was gay, but I didn't really explore it. And I didn't tell anyone about it, so I just kept that part of me hidden. Because even though it wasn't an issue for me, I didn't feel sad or down about it. I knew that probably other people wouldn't be so nice about it, so I kept it to myself. But then when I got to age 15, 16, I started to think, well, I really want to be more authentically who I am, and I want to start living a more fun and enjoyable life, so it's time to be honest with myself and just do what I want to do. So before that, I kind of tried to do my best with hanging around with boys, enjoying things that boys like doing, like football and sports, but it was pointless because I was hopeless at all of those things. So I think when I got into my last 2 years of school, I decided, right, now I'm going to be who I want to be. So I made friends with a group of girls, about 8 girls, and that is when my life completely turned around at school. They all knew that I was gay. I was open about that. It was such a relief to tell people and just to be who you want to be. And I really started to enjoy my school then, because I could just be me. So it was fun to talk about boys, you know, talk about things that were more, the things that I enjoyed more, like pop music and other things, and just be me. So those last 2 years at school were much better, much more fun, because I was being me. When I got to about age 16, I started to have my first, not relationships, but interactions with boys in terms of attraction. So I'm not sure whether you remember this, but there used to be a web chat called MSN Messenger, where you spoke to people who you know, and it was on the computer. We didn't have smartphones back then, but it was kind of like the WhatsApp of its time. So if you grew up in the early 2000s like me, you will probably remember that and probably have used MSN Messenger. Well, we used to go home from school, sit on MSN Messenger all night and just chat to each other, all of our friends. And it was private messages, so you could speak to individual people all at different times. Through this, some guys at school started to chat to me and started to build a friendship with me, people who I never usually spoke to at school. And after a few weeks, I started to realize that maybe they were doing this because they were interested in more than being just friends. And actually there was one guy who I'm not going to name because he's still not comfortable with being gay, but we kind of had like a year relationship where it started through MSN, and then it developed into something more. We kind of had like a year relationship which was completely secret. He was completely in the closet. Actually, he did say to me that if I ever told anybody that he was gay, that he would kill himself. And I believed him, and I didn't want to cause him that distress, so obviously I never told anyone about that, and I still wouldn't now. And it was really the first time that I realized that my experience of being gay, which was one of acceptance and enjoying it, was not like that for everybody else. So, and I realized that people really struggled with being gay. When I was at secondary school, and it was pretty obvious that I was gay because I didn't try to hide it. I used to have, you know, I'd do my hair exactly how I want. Maybe I'd have different style shoes to the rest of the boys. So it was pretty obvious that I was a gay person. All of my friends were girls. I didn't get bullied, but I did get called lots of names. Nothing too terrible, just the usual ones. And it was kind of like when you're walking from class to class or through the playground, boys in groups would shout names when you're walking past. And they didn't really bother me, to be honest, because mostly what they were saying was true, so they were calling me gay or whatever. And for me, that is just, it doesn't bother me at all, because it's kind of like them, if they were shouting, "Nick, you've got brown eyes," it's exactly the same, it's true. So it wasn't hurtful for me, I just let it go over my head. But it did kind of make me a little bit shy and a little bit of an introvert. When you feel like you're walking through the playground and everybody's staring at you and the attention is on you, that really made me uncomfortable, especially if I was walking on my own. And that's something that's kind of carried through with even through to today. So sometimes if I'm walking through a busy place on my own, I still get flashbacks to those times and feel a little bit uncomfortable. But really, my school years were very fun. I enjoyed them immensely. I had the best friends, and I really just lived it up and had the best time whilst learning and studying. So although I'd come out to my friends and I was openly gay with them, I still hadn't told my parents. And my parents were very cool about the gay thing even before I told them. They must have known that I was gay. It was pretty obvious. And what they used to do, which I thought was so funny, they used to sit me, my brother and my sister down every now and again and say, "Oh, if any of you are gay, you can tell us, it's okay." And I knew that they were specifically talking to me. So that was very sweet of them to make me feel a bit more comfortable. But for some reason, I just couldn't tell them. It was hard for me to tell them. So I didn't tell them till I was 18, and I met my first boyfriend, and I decided that this was the time to tell them. He wanted to meet my family. We were seeing each other a lot, so I thought now is the time to tell them. In the UK, when you turn 18, you're allowed to go to clubs and bars and drink alcohol. I know in the US and in other parts of the world you have to be 21. In the UK, you're 18. So as soon as my friends and I turned 18, that was it. We were off to the clubs every week, probably 3 times a week, having fun while still at school. And that was where I met my first boyfriend. And I was dancing with friends in this club, and I saw this guy sitting across at the bar, and he was staring at me. Now, when you are a gay person in a straight club, which we were, it's kind of difficult to know whether someone is looking at you because they like you, or whether they're just looking at you for no reason in particular. But after 10 minutes of him looking at me and really staring, I realised that probably he liked me. So I plucked up the courage, gave him a little smile, and he called me over. We had drinks together, we swapped numbers, and that turned into my first serious relationship. It lasted about 2 years. But what happened was, in the first few weeks of our relationship, we were like desperate to see each other all of the time, as you are when you're in a new relationship. And whilst I was studying at school, I also had a part-time job working in a clothing store. And what I used to do, my mum used to drop me off at school in the morning. I would go to school till 3, and then from 4 till 8 p.m. I would work my little part-time job in the clothing store. So my mum used to pick me up from there as well. So one day she dropped me off at school, and I said, look, you don't need to pick me up after school. I'm going out with Amy, who is one of my best friends, and we're going to go out and have dinner, so it's fine, I'll do that. Later that evening, instead of Amy picking me up, I was really going out with my new boyfriend. So let's give him a name. I'm not going to give you his real name again, because he's not someone who is out as gay. I will call him Harry. So Harry was picking me up from work, and we were going to go and have dinner together. He did. We had our dinner, and then we were driving back, and I had a call from Amy, and she says, oh my God, I'm so sorry, but I've just called your house phone to ask to speak to you, and your mom answered, and she was like, well, I thought that Nick was with you. So I said, no, don't worry, it's fine, don't panic, I'll sort it. And then I put the phone down and I spoke to Harry, and he says, why don't you use this chance to, instead of telling lies, to be open and honest and just tell them about you. We had about 10 minutes in the car before we got back to my parents' house, and I decided that that is what I was going to do. When I got home, it was about 10:30 in the evening, and my parents are in bed, and I almost chickened out and thought, okay, they're in bed, this is not the right time, do it tomorrow. But then I knew that tomorrow would never come, so I just thought, I've got to do it right now. So I shouted up and said, Mom, come down, I need to talk to you. She came down, we sat together on the sofa, and I said, look, I need to tell you something. But I still couldn't say those words, I'm gay. So she says, what do you need to tell me? And I said, can you guess? And she's like, no. And I said, are you sure? Just guess. And then she says, are you gay? And I said, yes. And then she was like, oh, I've known since you were 4 years old, it's fine. And we both laughed and hugged, and she wanted to know everything that had gone on and if I was okay. So we had a long chat, and it was the biggest relief of my life, knowing that the person who cares for you the most in the world is fine with it. And I knew she would be, but it was just building yourself up and doing that. And then she says, let's tell your dad. So my dad came down. He was a bit bleary-eyed because he'd been sleeping, and his reaction was very casual, just like, oh, fine, that's okay, you didn't need to wake me up to tell me, you could have waited till tomorrow, and I'll always love you. So he was very blasé, went back to bed, and that is exactly what I needed to hear, and the reaction that, it couldn't have been a better reaction. So he was super happy, super relaxed, acted like it was just no big deal, and that is exactly what I could have dreamed of. So I'm really pleased with that, because I know from my own experience with friends that their parents can take it very badly. I mean, some of my friends were kicked out of their homes, their parents don't speak to them anymore, so I know that I'm super lucky to have such amazing parents who supported me. So things didn't really work out with me and Harry. We were together for about 1.5 years, but he really struggled with being a gay person. We lived together, but it was very complex. My point about telling this story is just remember that we're all just trying to be happy. We all just want to live our own lives. So I would say, let people do that. Whatever it is they want to do, as long as they're not harming anybody else, let them just be who they want to be. We all deserve to live authentically. So skipping forward quickly now, I then met another guy who I was with for 8 years. He was my last relationship. He was quite successful in business, and we traveled around the world. I really got to learn about my own style. I had the chance to do that. My eyes were open to the world. We had wonderful years together, and that is kind of how I've come to be in this position now, and be this person who loves beautiful things and sharing them with you. Sadly, it didn't work out with me and my ex-boyfriend, but it was not a bitter or horrible ending. We both decided at the same time that the relationship had run its course. I think, as I'm a young person, I went through my 20s with him, now I'm 31. you change, you grow, you become a different person, and you just both want different things. So we are still the best of friends. I speak to him all the time. I see him quite regularly, and we've got a very nice relationship, and we will always love each other dearly and be the best of friends. So yeah, I'm still single, but my relationship with my ex is a very good one. So if you want to date me, you have to be friends with him too. So that is kind of my coming out story, and even though I've never really spoken about that before, I did think it was important to share that. I know that a lot of people, especially younger people, are going through tough times. When you're figuring out who you are, it can be very strange, very stressful. So I just want to let you know that it's going to be fine. You just be authentic to who you are, and the people who really love you will be there. If you're going through this, please don't worry, it's going to be fine. Moving on from my coming out story, I'd like to talk more about internet trolls. And I hate to use that term because I think it sounds a bit silly, but I do know that there are people out there who write mean comments, they start mean forums just because they feel bad about themselves and they want to try and make you feel bad. As I mentioned in my coming out story, I did go through my teenage years dealing with name calling, a little bit of bullying, so I'm used to that. It's something that I've dealt with my whole life. But I think it's time for me to address some of these things that people say and talk about it now. So my mantra has always been, what other people think of me is really none of my business. However, it would be kind of weird for me not to address some of the things that I read about myself and pretend that it doesn't happen. So one of the things that I read a lot is that I am fake, and people try to uncover what I'm really like or what I'm really doing, or my past. And I read one forum where this guy talks about how he trolled Google for about 3 hours trying to find out the real me and who I really am. And I find it so strange because I've always been very honest about my past. I've talked about my childhood, the fact that I'm not an aristocrat, that I'm just a normal person who enjoys sharing beautiful things. And that is what I set out to do when I started this channel. It was all about creating beautiful things, sharing lovely things with you, just doing the things that I really enjoy. It was never about trying to be an expert or trying to be someone who tells people what to do. It was just about sharing joy. So I hope that is what people get from this channel, and there really is nothing to uncover. This is it. This is me. So even though these comments honestly don't bother me at all, I don't really care about these things that people say because I know the truth about me. The thing that does upset me is that people, especially young people, may be reading these forums who are also like me when I was young, growing up in a working class background, starting from the bottom, and thinking that if they try to improve themselves that they will experience this kind of maliciousness. And I want them to know that you can be whoever you want to be. All you have to do is work hard, and improving yourself is not something that people should laugh or try to make you feel bad about. Starting from the bottom and working up is something to be proud of, something that if you want to do, you should do, and you shouldn't feel guilty about doing so. I just want to end this part of this video by saying that I am not complaining or moaning about these things. Actually, when I first started this channel, I made a decision not to really talk about any of these things. My other motto is never complain, never explain, but thinking about everybody else and what they may be going through, I think it is important to do this. So I just want to say that I am not suffering creating this channel. It has been a complete joy, a real pleasure. I absolutely love what I'm doing, and I just want to thank all of you, because actually, even though there are a few nasty comments, a few online forums that aren't so nice, the majority of people who enjoy this channel are very kind. You make me very happy, and I really enjoy what I'm doing. So thank you, and let's all try to keep this little community that we have beautiful and happy. So the very last thing that I want to talk about in this video, and it's something that I've seen crop up again and again, and I was not going to address this because I didn't think there was any need to, but as I'm seeing it a lot, it would be kind of strange again for me not to mention it. So I'm going to talk about Tracy. So the thing that I get asked the most is what happened to Tracy? And the first thing that I will say is that nothing happened to Tracy. She is alive and well. We are still good friends and neighbours, and we see each other still, and we're still friends. So that is the first thing. Tracy is completely fine. Nothing happened to her, just that I decided that I wanted to create these videos as I intended, which was on my own, and I had a clear plan and vision about what that entailed. So the very first video that I did with Tracy was for the 4th of July, and because she was my neighbour and she's American, I thought that it would be fun for us to do a 4th of July video together, and we made some cookies. So this was supposed to be a one-off video with Tracy. She really enjoyed doing it with me, and actually a lot of people also enjoyed the video, so we decided to do more together, and for the next few weeks, for about the next 6 weeks, we did videos together every single week, and people enjoyed them, and I'm glad about that. However, I did feel like I was veering off the path that I'd set myself. It wasn't supposed to be a cooking channel, and every single video that I did with Tracy was revolved around food and the kitchen. So I did feel like I was kind of losing my identity a little bit, and I wanted to get back to my original plan. So that is what I decided to do. So I've spoken to Tracy about this very issue. We decided that we would do separate videos together. I think she might be starting her own channel, so you'll be able to enjoy her cooking videos there. She's a very talented cook, so I'm sure she'll do amazingly, and I implore you to watch those videos. But for me and Tracy together, I better just say it now, we will not be doing any more videos together. I always plan to do this channel by myself, and that is what I will do. So it is just going to be me, and there will be no more videos with us together. I also just want to say that I know that a lot of people do comment on Tracy's Instagram asking about what happened between us and are we ever going to do videos together, and I would just kindly ask, maybe it's best not to do that, because it must be really annoying for her to have these comments. So I thought that I would explain this so that people don't have to keep doing that. So I would just ask you, Tracy shares beautiful pictures on Instagram, and it must be really annoying that people are not looking at the picture, more talking about what happened between us when really there was no drama. So I hope that has cleared that up for you now. So that is the end of this video. I thought that it would be very good for me to get things off my chest. I was really nervous about making this video. I'm not sure why, but I think it's just because I've never really opened up myself like this before. I know that a lot of people are watching, so it was very nerve-wracking for me to do that. I think you may be able to tell when watching this video. For next week, I'm going to be doing a really nice video. I'm going to a new plant store here in Edinburgh called Grow Urban. I'm going to give you a little tour, share some of my houseplant tips with you. Also going to be sharing a delicious salad. So I hope you will join me next week for that. Until then, have a really great weekend and a wonderful week ahead.